Enfield Zoning Board of Appeals at 7:00 p.m. There's two ways out of the room that we're sitting in. One, you go to the right into the parking lot. The other to the left, and into the parking lot. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Jessica.
Yeah, we're open. Madam Secretary, the roll call, please.
Andrew Banowitz,
Here.
Mary Ann Turner here, Charlie Masterbirdy,
Here.
Rich Droney,
Here.
Christine DeBoni, James Burr.
Here. Okay, the legal notice.
The Enfield Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at their special meeting on Monday, March. That's why they're messing with them.
Yeah.
March 9, 26, 7 p.m. in the Skidco room. 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, concerning the following: CBA 2026-01-09, 75 Oliver Road, application for a variance seeking relief of section 4.10.2, cellar and foundation requirements, Heron Homes LLC, applicant owner, map 47, lot 63, R44.
This is a continued hearing on the variance, and for the record tonight, Jen Byrne will be seated as a voting member. And with that, the applicant can go ahead and tell us what they'd like to tell us.
It's Attorney William Case again for the applicant. Good evening to everybody here. I think we have presented most of the information. There was the hearing was left open so that the commission could receive an update from the building department, which I believe it has done. We got a copy of that. I think it's attached in the packet for this evening, and it indicates that all of the inspections have passed for the building. And I do just want to reiterate that we're here for a variance from the regulation to allow a cellar, not to the building without a cellar, due to the hydraulics and the conditions at the property. Our civil engineer, Jim Subotnick, is here with us if you have any additional questions there behind you about the hydraulics and the water, high water table at the site that requires, there's a reason for this request being made. Okay.
Commissioners have any questions before I open it up? It seems like we have some audience members tonight, but whatever order you guys want to take in, if you have questions or if you want me to let the folks speak that are here.
That folks first.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience to speak in favor of this application? Anyone against? Okay, we'll take you in order. Luther Green, sir, and go first.
I pass out papers for you guys to read along with me.
You can give us whatever you'd like to give us, as long as you give a copy to staff for the record.
Of each.
Yep.
Yep.
I got three.
So the first packet I'd like to read in is my own statement.
And I share. Sure. Make sure one gets. Okay. Go ahead.
So the first packet I'd like to read in is my own statement.
Okay.
The second packet is from.
Are you reading this statement?
Yes. The second packet I'd like to read
Oh,
in,
yeah, can you give us your name and address for the record?
Michael Menard, 94 Post Office Road.
Okay. No, you can go ahead.
The second packet I'd like to read in, if you guys would allow me, is from Lori Longy. We can't make it here today. And for whatever reason, the general public is not allowed to zoom into the meetings. where experts are. So if you allow me, I'd like to read her statement into the record as well.
Yeah, we will. We're not that busy tonight.
Okay. I'll make it quick. So Huron Homes LLC has requested a variance related to the requirement to have a basement and the residential home is constructing at 75 Oliver Road. This variance should not be granted because it does not keep with any of the three criteria in section 11.20. The first criteria indicates there must be a special circumstance or conditions applying to the lot or structure, which are peculiar to such lot or structure and do not apply generally to the lots or structures in the neighborhood. The applicant is claiming that because this lot has significant wetlands and a high water table, the construction of a basement is impossible. This is simply not true because the applicant was able to build residential houses with basements within the same neighborhood at 92 Post Office Road and 100 Post Office Road. The applicant's own soil scientist, Matthew Davidson, noted that both the Bancroft Silt Loam and the Ninigret Fine Sandy Loam have high seasonal water tables. The applicant's other house at 92 Post Office Road and my house, 94 Post Office Road, and my neighbor's house at 96 Post Office Road are all built in these same soils, have wetlands on property, and have the required basements. The applicant has not explained why only this lot is any different than the others in the neighborhood, and the characteristics cited are unlike these other homes. The second part of the first criteria is that these special circumstances or conditions have not resulted from any willful acts of the applicant after the date of the adoption of the regulation from which the variance is sought. The front yard of the applicant's property has had standing water over the last year. However, it has never extended up to the house. And the water problem is of their own creation. There has always been a natural drainage ditch that ran along Oliver Road from the top of Post Office Road, along the applicant property, back of the town property, and up past the property on the farm at 39 Oliver Road. During construction, the applicant filled in this drainage ditch along the front of the house, and the original plans called for installing a culvert under the driveway to allow the flow of water. If the applicant were to reinstate the natural drainage, it would have significantly less surface water on the rest of the property. Again, the surface flooding is of the applicant's own making. It hasn't been shown it would prevent the construction of a basement. Second condition to grant the variance is that the circumstances of the lot would deprive the applicant of the reasonable use of the lot or structure.
I need you to not talk, because I can't hear him. Sorry.
That's okay, I'll start that paragraph.
Can you go back 2 sentences?
Yes. The second condition to grant the variance is that the circumstances of the lot would deprive the applicant of the reasonable use of the lot or structure, and the variance is the minimum necessary adjustment to accomplish this. The applicant has not provided any evidence that constructing a basement is impossible on the property, or that constructing a basement would prevent him from building a residential building. A letter submitted by Kratzer, Jones and Associates, Inc. mentions Skidco, Shaker, and Mavid soils on the property have a high water table much of the year. But these soils are nowhere near the building site per the applicant's original wetland delineation, which is Exhibit 1 on the last page. It also indicates that the presence of these soils is a hardship not found at other sites in Enfield. But on the map, you can see these soils are no closer to the building site than any of the other 5 houses in the immediate area with a basement, including my own. This letter goes further to indicate that constructing a basement would require excavation into saturated soils and potential dewatering, not that it's impossible. In fact, the house the applicant has constructed at 92 Post Office Road has a planned sump pump to drain into a dry well. Additionally, when they put in the footers at 75 Oliver Road, the site was dry and did not require any dewatering, which is the second picture on the last page. Clearly, granting a variance is not the minimum adjustment necessary to allow for construction of a residential building. The third criteria for granting a variance is that the variance shall be in harmony with the general purposes of the regulation and shall not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare. While I don't know the exact reason that Enfield requires basements in residential buildings, online research has indicated that basements are built below the frost line in colder climates to prevent structural damage and provide stronger foundation to the building. Basements can also provide additional stability and structure for the building during high winds, hurricanes, and tornadoes. Excuse me. It's also a safer location for occupants during various natural disasters or times without electricity, as the temperature is more climate controlled. Permitting this house to be built without a basement directly impacts possible damage to other surrounding properties and the safety of future occupants. It is for these reasons that this variance should not be granted, because it does not meet any of the criteria needed for a legal hardship that uniquely affects this parcel of land differently than others. It appears that the additional surface water on the property is an entirely self-inflicted situation, and the applicant may be undergoing a financial hardship, as correcting the structure to put in a basement at this juncture may be costly and time-consuming, but these situations by law cannot be considered a reason for granting a variance. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Now, if you'll allow me to read the second one,
Go ahead.
or if you have any, I don't know how to answer questions or not.
Nope, you're just here to,
Is there a copy of these for the applicant?
Yeah, it's not fair that they don't have one.
But we can give you,
I mean, staff
I
doesn't
printed
even
it.
have one.
I only had so much paper at home, I apologize.
my copies.
So we need one for a file.
Yeah, you think there's,
Yeah, well, Marianne has.
thank you.
Great.
Yeah, Marianne will give it to you.
We just need a hand, thank you.
This is on behalf of Gloria Longy, who's at 1427 Enfield Street. I'm a licensed new home contractor. I have built in Enfield for 35 years. I'm a licensed appraiser for 27 years. Building a house follows a specific sequential order, which is exhibit number 14. After site preparation and excavation of a cellar hole, the cellar hole is then inspected and concrete footings are poured to support the load, followed by the installation of rebar, which is inspected, and finally pouring the foundation walls on top of the cured footings. I would like to repeat, foundation walls on top of the footings. Once a hole is dug and the footings are poured, then everything is on top of the footings. I watched the last meeting on TV and I felt ZBA was getting misled. The applicant keeps telling ZBA that he could not do a foundation because it was too wet and the ground was like an underground lake. However, the drone pictures, exhibits number 1 and 2, is the exact day, October 24, 2014. The town inspected the footings and clearly passed them. As you can clearly see in the photos, there isn't a bit of water anyplace. When you pour your foundation walls on top of the footings, rebar was inspected on October 28, 2014. So after that, you can pour your foundation. But for some unknown reason, he uses 4-foot form instead of 8-foot forms. Like his plans he submitted to the building department show. He then fills in an already dug out area and makes a slab on grade house. The as-built plan for the foundation was done and dated 11/25/24, a week later, but not submitted to the town until 3/4/25. See Rick Rochelle comments in the building file attached, exhibit number 3. Rick also tells him he does not meet the required regulations. Any builder knows you can't start vertical construction until your as-built foundation plan is approved. And it's clearly building 101. It is also specifically mentioned by the town to the applicant on 7/21/24 before he gets his building permit, exhibit number 4. He went ahead and started vertical construction, put his roof on, siding, and deck. He's a very experienced builder and certainly knows the rules, but just disregards the regulations. He doesn't turn in his as-built into the town for another 4 months, but continues to build. I did a quick timeline so you can see there was more than enough time for him to do his due diligence in this property. He had over 9 months before purchasing the property. He does actually get site plans done and goes to inland wetlands prior to purchasing the property. And there's a whole timeline. You want me to go through the timeline? I can do that.
I think we can read it
Okay.
unless you feel it's
No, that's
important.
fine. I'll start at the top of page 2. Rick Rochelle, hard copy of the foundation as built dated 11/5/24, submitted on the afternoon of 3/12/25. Foundation as built does not satisfy the zoning regulations for the required 50% of living perimeter to be a minimum 3 feet below grade. Email sent to the applicant advising the same. 8/4/25 MLS photos increasing the price of the house. MLS marketing photos depict a dry area all around the house, which are in the photos 5-12. Modifications to the wetland permit stated he had 2 detention basins that were not in the original plans in an attempt to fix his no basement issue through wetlands. Again, it was pointed out by the town in the narrative that he is trying to tell wetlands that he is compliant with zoning and says that refined grading will provide compliance with a variance he did not have. On June 9/26, he decides to file for a variance for the basement from 2024, almost 2 years after the fact. This house should never have been framed because it would have been much easier to fix early on, and the builder simply disregards the inspection process. He can't even say he didn't know because the documents I've submitted from the town of Enfield's own records prove that the town actually tells him on multiple occasions. How is this not a self-imposed hardship? When the drains were dug in 2014, if there was no so-called water issue, then that is when it should have been addressed. But clearly, by exhibit photos 1 and 2, and all his own MLS listing photos in the area around the house is dry. As a builder, I can say there is a known fix to this situation. All he needs to do is go up with the foundation, not down. There is more than one way to fix it. But why fix? The fix will cost money, which might be why he didn't pour the 8-foot foundation walls in the first place. Concrete is expensive. He wants you to give him a variance because he didn't follow Enfield's regulations. But before he even put a shovel in the ground, 7/21/24, the town of Enfield tells him that all homes need to be constructed with a basement or ensure that 50% of habitable space is at least 3 feet below grade. And the town tells him that an as-built needs to be reviewed and approved before vertical construction takes place. Exhibits number 4. I just can't understand why anyone would keep building when you know this. You have the right to do whatever you want in this case, but all these documents I am giving you tonight have been found in the town records, and you should be aware of them, so you're making an informed decision, and a decision is based on facts and not just what people are telling you. Thank you for your time. Again, from Lori Longy, read it myself, Michael McCarty.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll just take a minute and look at the exhibits, and then I think it'll be more efficient if the applicant takes his rebuttal to this if he wants to, and then we can do the next comment. But I'll leave it to the applicant, whatever way he shows more efficient for his case.
I'm not sure if he was listening.
Okay,
Wait,
No,
whichever you.
we'd like to hear from both of the
Okay.
members, and then we
That's
can
fine.
address it. That may be better for the commission as well.
I just.
Hi, my name is Norman Gagnon, 24 Fairfield Road, in Enfield. Is this being recorded? Because I can give this copy to the committee afterwards, but this is all I have. And mine is not as scientific as his, but,
It is being recorded.
okay.
That's why you see the
So
screen.
that'll be it. This application for release of section 4.10.2 cellar and foundation requirements is a perfect example of the Wetlands Committee's adopted and generally accepted code of, and I quote, just because the land is wet doesn't make it wetlands. I don't know how many times I've heard that in that committee, but just because the land is wet doesn't make it wetland. That's the end of their quote. The houses that have been built already on the farmland and open space are built into the side of hills at the edge of Post Office Road at the required setback. However, any contractor with construction experience will notice that these homes are built with most of their foundation not in earth, but on footings. And they have walkout basements, which to this experienced contractor and 40-year citizen of Enfield, Connecticut is slab on grade. The application for relief also asks to grant the slab on grade for the house that is rough framed already. Someone must have missed the oversight before the build. Or are we just hoping that on the good graces of the town management and this committee? The land they're building on has been wet for more than 40 years. And if it was buildable back then, 40 years ago, Ledger Star would have built 30 houses on that land. It was not buildable then, and it's not buildable today. I respectfully ask this application be rejected and the open space on Oliver Road be left open, and this be the last house built on Oliver Road. Also, the engineering department, town of Enfield, has approved a driveway curb cut onto Oliver Road for the 75 Oliver Road. The original listing has the property as Post Office Road. Now that the curb cut has been approved and installed, those of us that live and use Oliver Road frequently can tell you that the curb cut creates a dangerous condition and someone is going to get hurt. There, because of its proximity of Fairfield Road traffic and Post Office Road and Oliver Road. I called the engineering department, and as soon as they started putting that driveway in and talked to them about it, and they said that they weren't aware that that listing was actually Post Office Road back when the original owners, and I don't know how it got subdivided, but I don't know if it was town-owned land and sold, but whoever sold the land sold it as 4 lots on, or 5 lots on Post Office Road. So respectfully, I ask that the application be rejected, or in talking to my wife about it, if this house was going to be built, so the water line along the road, all the way down Oliver Road, has got to be addressed by either the town and the builder. And I don't know whose expense it would be, but it's every time they build another house, they're blocking where the water used to go. So you're getting more water because of the lack of the culvert under the driveway is one of them. But as soon as they put that house in, there was so much water, they had to put 2 little ponds in front of the house. So anyway, respectfully, I ask that we approve this at this time.
Okay, thank you for your comment. If you do want to submit that written document, you can hand it in to the staff here. And with that, I'll let the applicant have his time for rebuttal.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if Jim, do you want to answer any of the questions first that were raised here from an engineering point of view?
Yes. Can I be heard?
Yep.
Excellent. Can I share a screen?
I
I believe you can, yes.
Okay.
Jim, could you just reintroduce yourself for the meeting?
Yes. My name is James Sakonchik. I'm a professional engineer. I'm a land surveyor. I have licenses for both. I am president of the firm of Kratzer, Jones and Associates, and I've worked there since 1976. So I have had the opportunity to work on many projects, and this is a typical one. Can you see the front of the house under construction in the picture?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm going to go to the next picture, which is on the right-hand side of the house. If I can make it work. Let's see. Now, you can see that the window is right here. Can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Good. And we banked soil along the side of the house. The next picture, you can see there is a walkout and there is soil banked on the side as well as soil banked in the back. And again, you can see there's a soil bank over here. And the intent was to have that bank of soil meet 50% of the perimeter of the house. And it was our impression that that met the regulations. The staff has asked us to seek a variance so this soil would not have to be banked in this way. They thought, maybe they can correct me, but that it was the better solution not to have that soil banked. At the last meeting, there was a question on why we're going to the Zoning Board of Appeals so late in the process. And the reason is the fact that we thought we were conforming. We thought we didn't need a variance, but they asked us to obtain a variance. So trying to be cooperative, we have done that. And this is the fourth side of the house. And getting back to the front, you can again see the soil banked over there, attempting to create that basement that was desired. Now, the two speakers did try to bring up some facts that they thought were useful, but they were talking about groundwater. Now, there is a lot of wetlands not where the house is, but near the house. And anybody driving Oliver Road right now would see that this wetlands is wet, which is not unexpected in wetlands, and the driveway crosses those wetlands. The house cannot, engineering-wise, be put lower because then the wetlands and the soil, the water here is like an underground lake, and there was a lot of evidence brought to that point by us and even one of the speakers at the last meeting. Now, it is true that he did the house over here, but look at the grades here. We have grades of 126, so that there are higher grades here that allow that basement to be naturally placed in the ground. The two buildings have essentially the same finished floor, but because of the topography, the God-made topography on the lot in question, we don't have elevations of higher elevations around the house. We try to bring in fill to create those higher elevations, but staff asked us to try to seek variances, which is why we are here.
Jim, all we see right now is the house. We don't see the elevation
What
plan.
house are
Okay.
you talking about?
He's showing it.
Well, the person talked about the other house nearby, and notice that the basement floor is 119.91.
Yeah, we're
this
just
is
seeing
not
that
the
house
house-
itself, Jim.
Jim, you gotta switch the screen. It's showing the original house still, the current house. I think you're trying to show a map with
You need
the
the
elevations.
Topographical site plan.
Okay, let me, I see the error of the waves. Hold on. I think I have to stop share. And then go to this and share.
Yeah.
Windows. Can you see the house now?
Yep.
Let me zoom out. orientation, the lot in question has a little corner on Post Office Road, has a lot of frontage on Oliver Road, and goes to the back and is shaped this way. It is mostly wetlands, but it does have uplands right here. An adjacent house that was mentioned by one of the speakers is this house right over here. Now, I'm going to zoom into our house and make note of the basement floor of 119.84, which is an elevation above sea level. And I'm going to point to this 119.3, which was an original grade before construction started. 117.8, an original grade before construction started. 119.1, an original grade before construction started. So you can see that we are keeping the basement at close to the original average grade in this area, which is much higher than like the 116 elevation in the wetlands. Now, yes, there is another house, like some of the other houses in the neighborhood, that also has a basement floor elevation of 119.91, almost the same. But if you look at the natural topography, we have an elevation of 124, 126. So you have higher ground, which lent itself to the construction of the basement. In fact, the garage is at 126.8. And the basement is lower at 119.91. So this lot here is a typical lot that exists in Enfield, which allows itself to be constructed with a basement. Now, our lot has different.
Jim, could you
Sorry.
stop for a minute? Reinhard on Heron Hall, South Windsor. One of the nuances, I bought 100 Post Office from Lori Longy. Lori Longy built the 3 other houses, including Mr. Menard's. Mr. Menard is Lori's son-in-law. Okay. As you can see here on this house on Post Office, okay, can you go back to Post Office, please? Jim,
I can.
can you zoom out?
Same plans.
Same plans, just zoom out.
There you go.
Oh, this is still 75.
There you go.
Okay, so as we can see on this plan, that there was gravel material all in the front of this, creating the grade difference to bring it up to the height. Now, Lori Longy is also the sister of the Spazzerinis that owned the Ellington. They own a gravel pit. And Lori told me that every time they went back and brought their trucks back to the end of Post Office Road, where Spazzarini Construction is, they dumped a load of fill material here. Okay? So if you take this house at the 119 elevation here for the finished floor, that's the same elevation that I have at the finished floor. This is a full walkout. It's the same grade as this grade, just the house is flipped the other way. So the grade is brought up around here. We satisfied the 50% regulation. Mr. Heine, Ms. Webb can speak to
I'm
that.
not speaking to that.
Okay. We satisfied this through Rick Rochelle and we got a CO because of that. Okay. That's 100 Post Office, which was recently built and sold with the 50% coverage ratio to the same coverage ratio that we have around this house, 75 Oliver, at the same grade elevation. Okay. So the fill material was brought in here. I could not bring, based on my wetlands permit, fill material into this site. Even on the revised plan, which is showing the relocation of the structures underground, okay, providing flow between these 2 spots here, they thought that was a better design. We had a limitation of fill material. We couldn't import material to this site. They wouldn't allow. Wetlands wouldn't allow it, even on second go around. They said, can't do it. Unlike this, which wasn't covered by wetlands. This site was not covered by wetlands. And they didn't care how much material you brought in. This one, because if it isn't, because they were sensitive to the wetlands, we were not allowed to bring fill material in because we would have been filling wetlands. In excess of 5,000 square feet, I believe, is what the regulation calls for or allows. So that's the similarities between these two that need to be brought to light. Okay, this is a 119, as Mr. Skonchik said, this is a 119, this is a 119. This is filled around the front, this is filled around the side and the back to satisfy the 50% requirement, 3 feet or 3 foot of coverage around the foundation. To the extent that at 100, we had to demonstrate on our final as-bills the areas that had coverage in excess cover the 50%.
Jim Sakonchik, I would like to, in the record, talk about the statement that when the foundation was poured, the soil was dry. I do not dispute that, but it was poured when the soils were in a drier season of the year. As an engineer, I have to be worried about the water table for the next century. I have to worry about the worst condition that it could occur in 100 years, if not longer. Because of that, there is plenty of evidence on the records and in the soils that the water is much higher at times than it was when the foundation was poured. So again, it is the natural condition of this lot, which is different from most other lots in the town, which is one of the classic reasons for a variance, so that the owner of this land can enjoy the use of a house as a living place. And it is compatible with the intent of the zoning regulations. I would like to add that the zoning regulations even describe situations where they are happy to allow a structure without a basement. The first would be for a manufactured home. They would allow a manufactured home to be built with foundations below the home and no need for a basement. The second situation would be where the slab is used for solar gain, so that, you know, heat could come in through like the slider or other windows and create passive heat on the slab, which acts like a big heat sink. So here you have two situations where the town encourages situations where a basement isn't used because it allows a function. And this variance, which I hope is granted, would allow a similar function, and it does meet the intent of the regulations, and it does meet the intent of the need for a variance to allow this piece of land to be developed in the same manner as all the neighbors' houses have been developed. So that is my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. I think that Jim did an excellent job addressing the issues raised by Mr. Barnard. I'm sorry, I forgot the name. Gagnon, Mr. Gagnon. I do want to point out that this is not a self-created situation here. This is due to the topography and, as Jim said, the hydraulics. And the variance being granted would be in keeping with the neighbor. There are some other instances of COs being issued in town for houses that don't have full basements. There's many of them, and we're happy to provide a list of those to the commission if it feels like there's something necessary there. But we are aware of involved in houses that have the similar type of construction, and there was no request for a.
Are you talking in the last 5 years?
Yes, one as recently as June of 2020.
And we're talking about the modular home that was built?
No, these are stick-built homes.
Where?
Well, there's several on Meeting House, so several on River Cliff, First Avenue also. There was also a building on First Avenue that we were aware of. And there, we haven't really done a lot of research into that, but these are just some that my client's been involved in and is aware of. Similar situations where the were backgraded.
Are you saying these houses don't have basements?
Yes.
Lori, did they come in for some kind of change?
I have no idea.
Me neither. Okay.
You can go on.
That was a wetlands permit issued for the one on First Avenue that we're aware of. So I do know that this is something that happens in the town. I think uniquely, we were asked to come here for the variance due to some of the situations, maybe some of the neighborhood concerns. So we are here before you, requesting some relief from the requirement that basements be included because of the hydraulics at the site, which is unique to this site. As we just ran through, the other location just next to it has a different elevation. Therefore, the basement could have been installed. We're at the same grade, at the bottom grade. We want to include photographs.
Jim has photographs.
Did Jim include these? There's some photographs of current, we can share those. These are today.
No, those were shortly after construction. Same pictures that Jim showed today.
These are just copies for the file.
I have a video that shows the amount of water that has been flooded in that whole area on the corner. And on the corner of where they're talking about, there's another for sale sign with it saying sale pending. They're gonna put another house in there with all that water?
We can't answer questions.
Oh. Well, I've got to,
Interact with you, so I'll let the applicant have any other final comments they want before the commission asks questions.
All right, just for the record, the houses that were there are 5 Meeting House, 6 Meeting House, 5 River Cliff, 6 River Cliff. These were COs issued in like 2020 era.
Okay.
And 25 First Avenue, the CO was just issued in June of this year. And I do want to say that this application did go to wetlands, and wetlands did approve the plan, including all of the drainage that seems to be functioning very well, even on a day like today when there's quite a bit of runoff. It's at the site today. Thank you.
Questions of the commission? Yeah. May I? Go ahead.
Jim, I don't know your last name, Solodnik? Engineer?
It's Sakonchik, but Jim is fine. Thank you.
My apologies. You said, and maybe I misunderstood, but you said that the water is now higher than when there was original digging. Did I get that correct? The original digging of a basement or of a foundation?
I meant to say, I am concerned with what would be the maximum water elevation anytime over the next couple of centuries. And there's a lot of evidence that when water is high in the ground can speak to you if you know how to read a soil. That's how soil scientists work. And there's a lot of evidence that the water is much higher in that it's an underground lake. And we are a good, 2 feet above, the worst case scenario there by choice, so that we have, we're kind of an island above the water.
Okay, something hasn't changed since the construction began. That's what I took from what you said before, that the water is now higher than before.
That was not my intent. The water can be higher at some time over the next 2 centuries, and I'm concerned about that, and I want to make sure my house is higher than that.
So I have written those same questions down. I'm confused. If you were working on this project and knew from the minute you started that when you dug a hole, you had this potential water issue, why didn't you just stop?
Yes, thank you for that. Most of Connecticut,
No, no, no.
most of Connecticut will have seasonal high groundwater, which is why most houses with basements have footing drains, because they expect the water to be higher than the floor of the basement. Footing drains are good. Footing drains work if you have a place to send the water, and if the type of water that's rising is what we call a perched water table. In other words, there is elevation so that the water by gravity will flow away. We can't achieve this on this lot because the nature of the water is an underground lake. There is no way we can basically drain an underground lake with footing drains. It is just not done for residential construction. The building code talks to that. If you have footing drains, you have to have a positive way of getting the water out of there. So that was the intent of my comment. There is high groundwater here, but the high groundwater here is of a different geological characteristic than normally used for basements and footing drains.
Is it your view that this variance isn't necessary because you meet this 50% of the habitable space being at least 3 feet below grade? I don't know who I'm addressing that to. I guess to you, Attorney Case.
I mean, I think originally that was what we thought. That was exactly as you said, that, but when the town staff came, they thought that we should come in for the variance based on that regulation. But we did, and these other houses kind of indicate that there has been approval of that in the past. And the building department this went through building and went through wetlands, and it's been through zoning before we got here in this situation. That's kind of why it's a little bit backwards in terms of timing.
If the variance were denied, would you continue to assert that position that you meet that 50% threshold?
I'm not really sure what we'll do at that point. I'll have to, evaluate if we deny what our course of action would be at that time.
Questions from the commission? Nothing? No, nothing. Anything further from the applicant before we close the hearing?
Yeah, if I may, I could address here, there's not gonna be another house there. There's like a pie shaped, 75 is like a pie shape with 100. It does have a little bit of frontage on post office. That sign was just there, I think, for optics. So there's not.
Can you explain the water?
Yeah, so I can explain to what I did at the last meeting. So I've had a considerable amount of time.
This doesn't have to do with us. Recognizing that before it, so. But if you want to say something else about your variance, then go ahead, I won't stop you.
That's fair. We'd just like to answer any questions the public has.
Yeah, we just don't want to have a open-ended.
Sure. Understood.
I went by there today. There's a lot of water. I'd like to know about it.
There you go.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to have an answer to the question that
Okay.
lady raised.
So if you go up to the intersection of Oliver and Post Office and you actually walk it and you have some experience in elevation and drainage and what water actually does. And when it falls from the sky or it melts, frozen melts as it is now. The intersection of Oliver and Post Office, the crown of the road on Post Office all drained towards Oliver on an angle away from, so I'll go from the east to the west. Okay, Jim, you might be able to pull that up, please.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So from the east side and the north side of Post Office and the south side of Oliver, this. If I can point to this. So the crown here of this road, Post Office Road, all drains to Oliver. Always went to here. I wanted to answer a question too about sightline. Okay, that sightline was approved by engineering because we had to clear trees out of here, which kind of increased the amount of visibility of the water that's set in this area. Okay, so this entire watershed from here all the way here, this road's crowned. It goes this way and ends up right here. This Fairfield Road, where these folks live, comes this way and also ends up right here. It has since this land has been here. We moved this over here, and Jim and his team did a very good job of engineering this. You can see from the pictures today that this driveway isn't even close to being underwater as it was described in the past. And we haven't even brought the final grade in here for the driveway. This, I think, has about 10 inches still of fill to go up to drain out here and go out this way. Okay, so that's where your water, your overland, your surface water is coming from. Now, if the town had understood what that was, they would have put drainage structures in at least 100-foot intervals on this corner of Post Office Road, on this corner, because it all goes this way, and then along this way. Okay, so if they had really no place to put the water, so they just let it all just go here historically, and for as long as this has been here. That's really the crux of this issue, okay, of the water. So we had unseasonable snowfall. We have had warm temperatures now. Has been a slow release. I was there today. Those pictures are from today that you can see. You mentioned you were there today. I was there on site myself. I took a lot of pictures. I took a lot of pictures inside of the house. The house is completely high and dry. Okay. At the same elevation as this house, 119, same elevation. This is full walkout. The footings in the back of this house were all the same footings as this house. Okay. So that's why this water is moving here. It's sort of like, okay, it ended up there, and now I'm here talking about it with you. And then it does affect the hydrology of this area. Because this is the low spot, always has been.
If I can be allowed, I don't know what, your background
Yeah,
is
we-
in that, but I've
Public
been.
hearing's still open.
with that.
Process, just, all he has to do is call on.
Okay, name and address for the record and tell me what you want to tell me.
Norman Gagnon, 24 Fairfield Road, Enfield, Connecticut. I can approach that right there. I've been a plumber for 47 years and a contractor for over 20. The water he's talking about does not come from here over to here. It comes from way down Post Office Road. There is a pond on the other side of Post Office Road. It goes underwater and it comes across this way. It is being dammed up here. It floats under Oliver Road to Fairfield Road. And the water, if you physically go and look at it, the water is moving from right to left in this entire area. I have walked this area. I've been back here for a couple of times, and there's a natural stream that's running throughout the back over here. So some of it may be coming from here across the street, but most of it is coming from where the new houses are on Post Office Road, behind them, and all the way this way, and it's being dammed at Oliver Road. And so right here, there's a farm, 39 Oliver Road, and he redirected because his field was flooding, he redirected the water. And if you go and look at his water, it is coming from here to Oliver Road. And it's filling that culvert. So, you know,
Question for the applicant, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, unless the applicant wanted to address something there.
No.
Go ahead.
Is it your contention that the difference between your house and the other one on Post Office is simply you have the garage on the ground floor versus on the first floor level? Is that really the big difference between these two?
No, the difference is in hydrology.
Understood, which you claim is why you built it the way you built it, but the difference in the way the house was built. You could have easily just enclosed not had the garage there, had the garage above the first floor.
So I was limited by the wetlands permit to what I could import. I had zero import of material. The only material that I could generate there was for the driveway that I removed, okay? Was for the driveway to get down to out of the black heavy peat soils. And then remove that and put in well-drained driveway base. So that I was completely limited by what I could bring in without piercing the wetlands permit.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the commission? No? Do I have a motion to close the hearing? Hold on.
Hold on.
Stas?
I should have one comment. It seems to me that everybody's fighting a variance to not have a basement, but yet everything that's being discussed shows that it would probably be better not to have a basement, thus blocking the flow of water. My question to the commission is, does a high water table constitute a hardship? And that is the question. They've been given a wetlands permit. They've been given a building permit.
And why'd you get the,
They've been given a zoning permit as well. However, things changed in the plans to the building department, and with the OpenGov, it kind of didn't get back to zoning. So that's where this kind of started. But I think the question right now is, does a high water table, and we're not talking about wetlands, we're talking about a high water table, constitute a hardship?
that's, you can say that to me, and I go back to the original comment that I have asked since the last meeting, is this could have been handled before he went even further after he poured his first set of footings.
I think you can move that to discussion.
Still the same soil.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a question for Lori, if I may.
Go ahead.
And this was something you raised last time and then raised again today. Was there some sort of confusion with the applicant and with the town in terms of what he could do? Meaning, like,
Slightly.
did he have a reason to believe that he could go forward with what he was doing?
So it is my understanding that when he first came in with his building permit and the zoning officer reviewed it, it had a basement. He approved that. Subsequently, he came in and modified that plan and it went to the building department and we did not see it. The OpenGov didn't send it back to us for review. So the building department, I believe, and I'm not positive about this, approved it because they approve things without basements all the time. I mean, they don't care if there's a basement or not. It's not, as long as it's built to spec, they're okay. We're built to the building permit requirements. They're okay with it.
Okay, what about this, Miss Lori Longy says something about things that Rick Rochelle was saying in terms of flagging this.
I really didn't get a chance to really read through that at great length, so I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
I read through the other one, but
Do you think there was good reason for the applicant to be confused?
I'm not sure if he should have been confused. I think we were confused, but I'm not sure. I really couldn't say one way or the other.
If
Could the applicant speak?
Are we
to that?
closing the public hearing, going in discussion?
I need to ask staff another question, and we can't ask them if we close. Based on what you said, the original plan was basement, then somewhere it got changed, got
Yeah.
lost in OpenGov.
Mhm.
Was it approved in OpenGov as a basement
Originally, yes.
after they made the
So,
change?
so what happens with OpenGov, and we're trying to figure out what happened and why it's happening this way is, the OpenGov, the zoning officer signs off on it. And then if there's any modification, it doesn't go back to the zoning officer.
And this didn't go back to the zoning officer.
Correct. So we found out about it kind of a little late after the fact, after it was under construction.
Okay.
And then we had a powwow and we said, you know, you need to go back for wetlands, and you still need to go, and you need to get a variance for the basement.
Would the applicant have been informed that it was approved through OpenGov with
I,
a slab versus a basement?
I believe so.
You believe so because you believe it in your heart, or you have fact?
Because I don't use OpenGov as most of the other staff
So
does.
you're just
So,
giving us your opinion.
sure.
If I may, if OpenGov were to have given the notification back to the zoning enforcement officer, it is my belief that he would have seen the changes and he would have notified the applicant at that time
That time,
that it would not have met the regulation. So the miscommunication is a combination of the applicant submitting new plans and the failure on the OpenGov system relaying that message to staff, which, as Lori has already stated, we are working on correcting that issue and fixing that for future applications to make sure that something like this does not happen again.
So you're admitting that the applicant on his own submitted new plans knowing that he got the zoning side to do one thing and he then tried to get the building department to do a second thing.
That's not necessarily true.
we
Wait
did
a
not say
minute,
that.
I'm asking,
Not true.
We did not say that.
well, which one's not
You're,
saying
you're
that?
asking us
May I?
to,
You're interrupting your own guy.
What I said is that the OpenGov system had failed to notify the zoning enforcement
Is this the
officer.
first time it's ever failed?
we don't know.
We're not sure. We have to look in the system to see exactly if it's happened again with other applications.
Well, then-
I do not think that the applicant was trying to skirt around the zoning enforcement officer.
Then why would you?
I believe that this was a fluke mistake that happened with the OpenGov system. Because
I can't, again. Okay, I'm not understanding this at all. The applicant was clear.
Once,
Okay, when we close the hearing, we'll discuss it.
all right, so once we realized what was happening in the field, there was stop work and there was a big conversation between Mr. Von Hollander and staff. And that's where we realized he should have come in for the variance before. But regardless of timing, you know, the hardship is, in my opinion, that there is a high water table.
So you're now speaking for us.
I just said in my opinion.
You said that there was a point in time where you said, you told them, listen, hey, you better apply. This was a few minutes ago. You said this at some point, it became clear there was a problem and you said you ought to apply. At that point, what was the status of the construction?
I'm pretty sure it was was it fully built at that point?
About where it is right now?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So is this just the way for the town to?
We're not trying to hide anything. We're trying to fix something. Quite honestly, I believe that if this came in a timely fashion, it's a legitimate hardship, in my opinion.
Yeah, and may I ask a question of the applicant?
Yeah, I was gonna let him have a chance to say something, so if whatever way
At
you
that
want
point in
to-
time that Ms. Witten's talking about, you had believed that you were meeting that 50% ratio.
Can you give me the
Yes, I mean, I think when our engineer testified, he did say that.
I'm just trying to figure out the timing.
Yeah, exactly.
So you went for it, that this thing was going on in OpenGov, and at that point, you believed that you were in compliance with this 50% thing, and you
Yes.
didn't even need a variance.
Correct. We had submitted an as-built through the OpenGov Jim's firm submitted an as-built through the OpenGov. When Rick, the zoning enforcement officer, Rick Rochelle, excuse me,
Mhm.
Rick Rochelle sent an email and said, I never got the foundation as-built. And I said, no, we submitted it. Went back into the record, found it 3 or 4 months after the fact, I think, after the fact,
After the fact, meaning after the building was up?
after the foundation as-built was submitted
Was submitted where?
to the OpenGov system.
And you didn't get anything that said to you it didn't go where it was supposed to go?
Are you asking that of me?
Yeah, I mean, how did you know you put it in there if you didn't have some way to know?
Our engineer submitted it.
Because it.
How do we know your engineer submitted it?
Because when you submit it to OpenGov, we get a receipt from OpenGov. We get a receipt.
Do you have a
The
copy?
the remitter gets a receipt.
Right.
Like all the documents that we have submitted, all the documents that have come through, all populate to OpenGov, whether it's from them or through us. For whatever reason, Mr. Rochelle did not see the as-built. I'm not fond of the position that I'm in, just to be very clear.
Or so you're not fond of it?
I'm not fond of it. And in the comments that were made that I was somewhat reckless in this process is, I take exception to. I was not reckless. I did everything I did. I always have. I've done business with this town for a very long time. Going back to the early 90s. I've built all of Misty Meadows. I built that. I built, was phase 1, 2, and 3. I built that all the way through and into the 90s.
So we got Ms. Longy's letter today, and I haven't had a chance to digest it, but there's an exhibit 3 on it, which according to Ms. Longy, you can see on the second page of this document, she has it in red. She says, go to the second page of the document, attorney case. Here's the first page. Then the second page is red. That's quoting exhibit 3. Mr. Rochelle says, hard copies of the foundation as built dated 11/5/24 submitted on the afternoon of 3/12/25, period. Foundation as built does not satisfy the zoning regulation for the required 50% of living area perimeter to be a minimum of 3 feet below grade, period. And this is the key part. Email sent to the applicant advising of same. And that's exhibit 3.
So I believe that's why the grade was put up, the 3 feet of grade was then surrounding the house.
In response to what?
We don't have the email, but
Well, it's exhibit 3, I guess.
no, there's no email attached.
So just the subtlety, the nuance is in hard copies. That's the nuance here. Because we had submitted it to the OpenGov. Okay? Mr. Rochelle requires actual hard copies, which would be paper. So at the time, when we discovered all of this, we submitted hard copies.
But what you think is that, let's assume that you got an email from Mr. Rochelle, and we don't have any evidence if you did or you didn't. But let's say you did. Do you feel as though you were responsive to what he was saying to you? Meaning you somehow adjusted your construction to meet whatever his concern was? Is that what you were saying, Attorney Case, like Phil was brought in?
Phil wasn't brought in.
No, Phil was brought in, the grade was brought up.
The grade was brought up.
Yeah, there's no Phil brought in.
That's just about pushing what's there towards the house.
Yeah, I believe that the Jim was stating.
So that's the way, so that was designed to address what Mr. Rochelle was concerned about?
3 feet of 50% of coverage of the 3 foot height of the living area. Yeah.
And then you think that was done?
But that's,
That was done
That was,
with the as-built. That was the intent of the as-built.
Okay.
And I do think there's a timing issue because the as-built was originally submitted through OpenGov prior to this date. I don't have that date.
11/15/25 submitted, of 24, excuse me. It was dated and submitted then and reviewed on 3/12. The hard copies came in. I think, Jim, you could speak to that with the 50%.
Yes, as shown on those pictures, using the available material, we did have 3 feet of soil against the house, which I believe meets the definition required under the regulations.
Does that answer your questions? Or
Yeah, I think that's good.
I make,
From the commission or a motion to close?
make a motion to close public hearing.
Do a second. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, hearing's closed. Discussion. Proposed motion to approve. We can
Well-
discuss the motion.
I can read you the motion and then we can discuss it. Is that what you
Yeah,
like?
yeah, that's what I'd like you to do.
ZBA 260109, 75 Oliver Road, application for variance relief for section 410-2, Stellar Foundation requirements, Heron Home, LLC applicant owner, map 47, lot 63, R44 zone. Motion in response to the request. The motion to approve ZBA 260109, 75 Oliver Road, application for a variance seeking relief from a 410-2 Stellar Foundation requirement.
Okay. We have a second and then we'll do discussion.
second.
Okay. Discussion and information.
This is self-imposed hardship. I read through some of the documents. Rick Rochelle isn't here to speak for himself, which maybe we should have had Rick here. During the last discussion, which is now almost 2 months ago, the applicant is on the record specifically saying that the minute he started digging, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the documents in front of me, that he knew when he started that he couldn't put it in a basement. And the second he knew that, he should have headed on down to see the office. And he did. He just continued moving forward. And documents that we have in front of us show that he got caught at it, and maybe the office staff didn't do their job right. Maybe the gov thing didn't work right, but it seems odd to me that the gov thing didn't work right just on this particular case. It should have been caught much time ago because I think they've been using it for a long time. So as far as I'm concerned, the thing should have gone straight back to Rick, to the zoning department, and they should have come back with a new plan. And maybe if they needed a variance, and maybe this commission might have taken it under advisement, and maybe we would allow to build something someplace or somehow, but that's a lot of maybes. As far as I'm concerned, this building is already up and there's a roof on, and that's a self-imposed, it's a financial hardship.
Anybody else have any discussion?
Well, I think it puts us in a really unfair position because this determination that we're asked to do now should have been made prior to the house being built.
Right.
So it puts us all in.
I mean, and I think for our purposes, we're imagining that it's not there.
Correct.
Just look.
That's how we should be looking at it.
That's the way I'm thinking about it too, as though had he applied for this before he started construction, based on what I'm hearing, I would have been inclined to give a variance.
But I may not have been, because this property should never have been built on at all because it's wet.
Well, I will say that, I drove by there today, there is a lot of water on there.
Right, so a variance doesn't mean you have to give it. It's just an option to give it.
Or there might have been other options
So
for developing the site.
just two things you said, Commissioner Turner, and not that I'm necessarily disagreeing with your position, but we don't know if OpenGov failed before this or after this.
It has nothing to do with it.
You said, I just want to clarify that.
We don't know.
Just for we don't know either way.
No.
But also, it's not our place to say that this is a buildable lot. That's the town's place to say
Oh,
that
yeah, no, wait, remember what our job is.
this was built according to wetlands in
And they've
building,
been putting cease and desist numerous times on this property.
yet they have permission up front to build on this property. So
With
We-
a basement.
yes, agree.
That's the only thing we're here for,
Agree.
with a basement.
Agree, right. But we're also, as we said, we're imagining this as not having
No.
been built yet.
That's, you can imagine all you'd like. I'm sorry. We have had people come
We
in
have.
front of us that have had property that's buildable per the letter of the law. And we have said, no, we're not doing this.
I'm
Yes.
not aware that we make that decision if something's buildable.
Yet we have
We make the
denied,
decision whether to grant the
Variance or not.
Ultimately, that variance may be the thing that
causing them not
allows
to
the,
build.
right, or changes the nature
It
of
changes
the
the way it has to be built.
Right.
Correct. And you're trying to tell me that you're trying to read our minds that should have happened 2 years ago, and there's a building on it.
I
You
know.
can ignore it all you want. There's a building on it. I'm okay, take the building down, come back and see us. We'll then talk about it.
I'm troubled by what seems like confusion.
I think that's,
Confusion between the staff and between the applicant.
I'm not buying it. These are professional. He's a professional builder. They're professional
We
staff.
also heard from the professional engineer.
And he's
So-
what, the third one? Because I don't think he was the original one. I'm not saying that something's not wrong with the property, but we're here about a basement. This property could have a basement. Maybe not there, maybe in a little dry spot, but not
Maybe a little smaller.
a little smaller.
If it could have had a basement, then why wouldn't he have done it just to save a few bucks?
Bingo.
Well,
I can't answer that. He could have probably put a house up there that maybe wasn't worth, well, $500,000-$600,000 house. Maybe it's gonna be smaller. Maybe it's gonna be a little ranch. I have no idea. But that again, is not my problem. I'm only here on ZBA. I'm here to say, is the land causing him a problem? Well, maybe it does. It might have been a problem where you can't build there at all. Then we would have just said, forget it. Anyway.
nobody said you can't build on it at all.
If he needed a variance and we sat there and said, you're trying to go back in time.
Right,
If
we're
he-
trying to imagine what it
This-
was if it wasn't there,
We-
and maybe it would have been something.
But the variance
small,
isn't because of
different,
wetlands.
we're-
The variance is the basement or
No,
slab
that's what we're here.
because of groundwater.
The weird, what is a variance? What is a variance? A variance is about what is your property doing that's causing your problem, that's not
Understood.
self-inflicted
Understood.
or financial hardship.
And I'm not disagreeing with you. It should be a basement. I'm not.
Or he could have just come in when he found the problem, gone back to zoning, discussed it with them, maybe gone to building, and maybe then that's when they realized you need to come to us for a variance. But they may have said something different if that's true about basements or not. We know that in March of 25, they made a new rule for modular homes that they don't have to have basements. He could have put a modular home in.
Right, there
Did-
is.
Did
There were
Jordan
lots-
tell us though that the building was constructed by the time they figured out the,
That's still not, he knew, go back and listen to our last meeting. He said it to us at the last meeting, that he knew the minute he dug, I asked him. He knew that he had a basement problem and he kept moving forward. And I said, why'd you do that?
That's not what I said.
He had options. Don't make the problem mine.
Ready to vote?
I don't know.
We made the motion and it's been seconded, so is there further discussion?
one more time, the motion? If a yes vote is approving the variance?
Correct, yes, it's very straightforward.
Okay.
No more discussion, guys?
I
want to cut you off.
This isn't a slight to, any, just trying to understand if the ground level for this house is the same ground level as the other house on Post Office, which is also a walkout. How is it any different? There's a partial
He doesn't-
basement
No. I'm sorry.
because of the
Yeah.
50% coverage.
I'm not going down this road. I am not a builder. He is a builder. He is here to get us to agree to something, Okay,
Understood.
so I'm not here to debate, and I'm not here to, I am not a professional builder. I built my house, and we started at sea level and moved up. And we have a walkout basement.
Rich, what is the point that you're making?
That, and I had asked the applicant, was the big difference is that there's a garage on the bottom level. If you close up that wall, it's a basement. If you look at the elevations used for this house versus the house on Post Office, very similar in terms of elevations.
Right. So that is a fix.
After the fact, we're here about, did he build it?
Well, no, but that's a fix. That would
That's-
mean you don't.
It could be a fix to be considered. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a builder. It may or may not be appropriate, but I'm trying to reconcile the difference between this house and the other house that is a walkout with the same wetlands issues behind it and around it.
This seems to really have the wetlands issues at the corner though. Which makes it unlike the others.
We are here is if he did not build a basement.
Right, yeah, we're not the wetlands.
We're not then,
No, I understand. And we've talked a lot of water stuff.
and.
Right.
Wait for 20 years from now. Water has a tendency to vote like it wants to. Are we ready to vote?
Anytime everybody else says I can call for the vote.
So one other thing, we've got what you requested last time from the town. Exterior wall footings approved, October of 24, October of 24, exterior foundation walls approved.
Right,
My struggle here is somewhere there's a mess up and the town's not innocent in this.
no,
And
then I guess.
I see where there could be confusion, whether the builder should have known it or not, that he took certain things as approvals to continue on with his project, the way he had resubmitted his plans.
It says right here that he did, this was October 28th of 24.
Right.
Those are
Exterior
the
foundation
inspections
walls
we did. Where do you see the?
Right above
approval?
it, overall comment.
Exterior foundation walls approved. Those are inspections we did and are required to do footings and walls prior to force. Dam proofing and footing drains are on the plan. He said he didn't put footing drains in and are required by code, but are not required inspections in the state of Connecticut building code. And what I'm specifically asked for, and I think this is just a little play, maybe with the office staff, is not just building codes, but zoning, Enfield zoning codes, and that is not in this document. Our zoning codes are clear. 4.10.2 says, put in a basement.
I agree,
Thank you.
but when a town inspector shows approval,
You read what he approved. We're going through the thing,
Saying he approved a building code issue.
not
You're
reading
seeing it as a
zoning code thing, and then Rick is telling, correct. Rick is saying he didn't. Building is saying he did. And if I remember right, that's the reason why they're in the same damn building now. That's another story for a different day.
Right, that's getting a little off of where we are.
So,
Are we through with our discussion and ready to vote? If we are, all those in favor, raise their hand. All those opposed, raise their hand. And since everybody's voted, there's no abstentions and the motion fails.
what answer do we want? Ready.
And that stuff that was.
Yeah, we had, I gave it to him. We have more than one.
Oh, no,
Two-
Mr. Menard,
two votes.
He has them both.
Okay. Does he? 'Cause it's-
Yeah, I've
No, I
got two of
gave
the
it to him
picture
early.
booklets.
I gave
I
it to
just
him
need
early.
the other,
we've written all over these. Is it possible to maybe email them?
yes.
We have some other stuff on the agenda technically.
We can't talk to you right now. Sorry, we're staying meeting.
Okay. Yeah, you just send them in the little copy for the file.
Yeah, so next on our agenda, we have approval minutes, but
Thank you.
we don't have any minutes.
Gonna make a motion to push those until our regular scheduled meeting.
Yeah, let's table those, I guess, because we don't have them. I don't think we have any correspondence or other business. The town attorney report, I guess you can take notice of. And
You didn't vote for it.
do we need the executive session
You voted
today with the
against.
Jarmark?
I voted the opposite way of everybody else. I voted for the variance.
You
I
said
didn't.
5-0, no.
When he was
when-
wrong, I raised my hand.
When he said all those in favor, you didn't move.
No, I did.
What did you say?
I said all those in favor,
Right, but you said
and then
you're,
nobody raised their hand.
No, I did. You just weren't looking at me.
you're already on the record here.
What do you want me to do? I voted for it. I'm voting for it now. I haven't changed my vote.
It's still denied.
It's still denied. It
It's
doesn't
still
matter.
tonight, so we need to have the proper vote.
Yeah, if-
You didn't
if that's
do
your
the
vote, then.
You have to make,
Correct.
Fine.
he said it.
But put me down as an abstain. I mean, I either voted for it or I abstained.
It
No.
doesn't make any difference.
So
It's
it's
just-
just had it.
Hear him, Jim. He said, he said we all voted against it. You
Right.
needed to say right then and there that we misunderstood.
I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
I'm not alone here, right?
I thought it was 5-0, but I couldn't, I didn't see to the side.
Do you guys have needs for this? So he doesn't have to bring us.
I think we have an extra copy of the site plan already.
You actually got it. Yeah,
Use them if you're gonna.
I'm not gonna recycle anyways.
Did you guys
Not give
already
you this extra.
motion to adjourn?
Not yet, because we have executive session
Yeah,
listed.
do you guys need that, or?
They didn't have anything. So hold it.
Oh, they
Yeah,
pulled it.
I spoke to Mark at about 4:15 today. He goes,
Okay.
no, we're not going, we don't have anything yet.
Okay, so the next, should we table it to the next one so it stays on there, or?
Yes.
Okay. let's
yes.
do that.
So here's what's happening. We did tentatively have this planned for, oh God, what was the next CBA date?
Is,
The next one,
Yeah.
Right, so, we're gonna keep it on, but theoretically, we could cancel that meeting because we don't have any applications.
Charlie.
okay, I mean,
So-
but, I'm sitting out on that executive session, so if the rest of everybody wanted to
Right,
come in, I mean, I'll leave it to you guys what you wanna do.
Yep.
If you wanna come in and just have the executive session.
Is that doesn't need to be noticed, right? It's
No.
just executive.
no, it's executive session,
We do it by Zoom.
internal.
As long as they can figure it out, I don't know.
Are you guys going to the, okay,
Hold on.
you've done that?
I think if we need the executive session, let's have the executive session, whether it's in person or virtually.
Mhm.
Or hybrid or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're waiting on plans from the
Oh.
other side.
okay,
So if they're not ready,
Yeah.
then just,
but if we need it, I mean, obviously, you're not involved with that,
so
so,
that's what I'm saying, it doesn't matter to me, but if he's ready, I don't want us.
yeah.
to be-
So if we need to have it, let's have it, if not,
Okay,
push it.
okay, but you're gonna let us know.
We're gonna let you know.
Yeah.
They've
Keep it as a
they've
question
been
mark.
saying that they can't survey when there's snow on the ground. Well, it'll
That's gonna be
tomorrow, so
gone.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn. Adjourn.
Are you guys going to the aperture for, the event?
No.
The interview? I'm going,
I'm,
Let me.
What was the date on that, Marianne?
the 20,